I stood outside the study door for a full 30 minutes, listening to my husband's voice drift through the crack. Wanin, you're so much more interesting than Shinji, Fu Yang said. She's nothing more than a well-behaved dog I keep around. The woman in his arms giggled. The sound felt like shattered glass piercing my ears. I looked down at the ginseng tea in my hands. For 3 years I had secured every core project for the Fu Corporation, and this was my reward. I pushed the door open, set the tea on the desk and said calmly, President Fu, you didn't close your door properly. He froze. My name is Shinji. I was standing on the second floor of my own villa holding a bowl of tea. Fu Yang bought this villa 3 years ago. His name is on the deed, but I'm the one who paid off the mortgage back then. Right after I'd secured the permits for the East City land deal, he held me and whispered, Gee, I can't do this without you. I believed him. It was 11:00 p.m. Warm yellow light leaked from the study I had come to deliver his tea. Fu Yang had a habit of working late, and for 3 years I had never missed a night. But just as I raised my hand to knock, I heard a woman's voice. Fu Yang, what if your wife suddenly comes back? The voice was sweet, cloyingly so, like cheap artificial sweetener. I recognized it. Lin Wanin, the heiress of the Lin Group. Just last month at a gala she had clinked glasses with me and told me, Mrs. Fu, you're so beautiful. I didn't move. Fu Yang's voice drifted out, laced with a laugh. She's been asleep for an hour. Her schedule is like clockwork, in bed by 10, snoring by 10:30. I don't snore, but he was right about the schedule. I kept it so I could wake up early to make his breakfast, prepare his meeting notes and manage his entire itinerary. For 3 years, I had functioned like a precision machine and he was the sole beneficiary. Lin Wanin giggled again. So when are you finally divorcing her? My dad said if you don't end it, the partnership between our companies is off. I heard a chair slide, then footsteps. Fu Yang had moved closer to her. What's the rush? Shinji is still useful. She's halfway through the proposal for the West City redevelopment project. Once she hands everything over, I'll kick her to the curb. My hands began to shake, the tea sloshed in the bowl, nearly spilling over. But I don't want to wait, Lin Wanin whined. It kills me knowing you still live with her. Fu Yang's tone shifted, he became tender, a tenderness that felt alien to me. Wanin, there's nothing between us. She's just a tool. She writes the proposals, negotiates the deals and handles the grunt work. Do you know what she's like? She's like a loyal dog. Throw her a bone and she wags her tail. I closed my eyes. 3 years ago, I was the youngest top-tier business consultant in the industry. I had never lost a case. My hourly rate was $5,000 and my opinions were worth millions. Fu Yang spent 2 years chasing me, flowers, bags, cars. He said he admired my talent, said he needed me. Said we would be the ultimate power couple. I believed him. I walked away from my own firm, turned down every client and moved into this villa. He told me, Gee, let's build the Fu empire together. I nodded, and over the next 3 years, I delivered the South City Complex, the East District Industrial Park, and the West City redevelopment projects. I pushed Fu Corp from a second-tier firm into the industry's top 5, and to him I was just a loyal dog. I'm still worried, Lin Wanin said. Look at how she revolves her whole life around you. What if she refuses to leave? Fu Yang gave a low, disdainful chuckle. She wouldn't dare. She has nothing without me. She couldn't even find a job. Don't worry, once I have the final West City plans, I'll have her sign the papers and give her $2 million to go away. $2 million. I had spent 6 months on the West City project. The market valuation of that plan alone was $30 million, and he was going to give me $2 million to go away. Kiss me then, Lin Wanin cooed. Then I'll believe you. I heard the rustle of clothes, her light laughter, and Fu Yang saying, You're so much more fun than she is. I looked down at the tea. The ginseng was handpicked from Changbai Mountain. I'd simmered it for 4 hours in his favorite purple clay pot. I set the tray on the floor and gently pushed the door open. The sound was faint, but enough. Fu Yang was in his desk chair with Lin Wanin draped across his lap. Their faces were inches apart. Her hand was on his shoulder, his was on her waist. It looked like a screenshot from a romance drama. I stood in the doorway watching them calmly. Fu Yang was the first to react. He shoved Lin Wanin off so abruptly that his chair screeched back against the floor. His face cycled through 3 colors in 3 seconds, red, white and ashen. Lin Wanin stumbled. Catching herself on the desk when she saw it was me, a flash of guilt crossed her face, followed immediately by defiance. She straightened her hair, tilted her chin, and gave me a look that said, "So you saw, so what?" I didn't look at her, I looked at Fu Yang. His Adam's apple bobbed. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He searched my face for something: anger, tears, hysteria. I gave him none of it. I leaned down, picked up the tea from the floor, and walked over to the desk. I set it down firmly, making sure not to spill a drop. Then I said, "President Fu, you didn't close your door properly." Fu Yang's face went pale. I turned and walked out. My pace was steady, neither fast nor slow. My footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor of the long hallway behind me. I heard a chair thud to the floor, followed by hurried footsteps. Fu Yang was chasing after me. "Shinji," he shouted down the hall. I didn't stop. He caught up and grabbed my arm, his grip so tight his nails dug into my skin. "Let me explain," he panted. I stopped and looked down at his hand, then up at his eyes. "Explain what?" "That you've decided to keep a different dog in your study." His grip loosened slightly, but he didn't let go. "Wanine and I, it's nothing. She was just upset and came over to talk." I just looked at him. "Everything you heard was just a joke," he added quickly. "I was just messing around with her." Still I said nothing. His voice grew frantic. "Shinji, don't overthink this. You're the one I care about most." Finally I smiled. "Fu Yang, you called me a loyal dog. You said you'd pay me 2 million to go away. You said you'd kick me out once I handed over the plans. Which part of that was the joke?" His hand dropped away completely. I walked downstairs to the foyer and changed my shoes. Fu Yang stood at the top of the stairs, his voice low and hollow. "Where are you going?" I opened the front door and looked back at him one last time. "President Fu, the tea is no good once it gets cold." I stepped out into the night and shut the door. He didn't follow. I knew he wouldn't. He was convinced I had nowhere else to go. I reached the intersection and hailed a cab. "The airport," I told the driver. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, probably wondering why a woman was heading to the airport in the middle of the night with just a handbag. He didn't ask. Once inside, I pulled out my phone and sent Fu Yang a message, 3 words, "I want a divorce." It was marked as read instantly. No reply. I sent another, "The settlement papers are in the second drawer of your desk. Sign them and send them to my lawyer." This time, he replied immediately, "Stop acting out, come home." I locked my screen. As the taxi hit the highway, the streetlights blurred past like ticking seconds. I leaned back and let my mind work. 3 years ago, I used my connections to get him the South City complex. 2 years ago, I used my talent to design the East District Industrial Park. 1 year ago, I used my resources to clear the path for the West City project. I had given him everything, and in return I didn't even have an official title at FuCorp. He had told me, "You're my wife. You don't need a title." Fine, perfect. I pulled a second phone from my bag, the one I used back when I was a consultant. It contained the contact info of every major player in the city. I hadn't touched it in 3 years. I scrolled to the top of the list. Ji Shin, chairman of Deep Creation Capital. He was my former client and Fu Yang's biggest rival. I hit dial. It rang 3 times. Ji Shin's voice came through, thick with sleep. "Who is this?" "President Ji. It's Shinji." Silence for 3 seconds, then his voice sharpened. "Shinji, you finally decided to call. I want to talk business," I said. "What kind of business?" "I'm going to help you intercept every single one of FuCorp's most profitable business lines until there's nothing left." Ji Shin went quiet, then he laughed, a sound of pure excitement. "And your price?" "After Fu Yang falls, I want every single one of his shares." "Deal." I hung up and looked out the window. The horizon was beginning to pale. "Miss?" the driver asked. "Still going to the airport?" "Change of plans," I said. "Turn around, take me to the Deep Creation building." The car did a U-turn and sped off in the opposite direction. My phone rang. It was Fu Yang. I hit decline. He called again. Decline. Finally a text. "Shinji, if you aren't back soon, don't blame me for what happens next." I didn't reply. Another text. "You are nothing without me. Don't push me." I typed out a response. "Fu Yang, do you know why my name means persistence?" He replied instantly. "What are you talking about?" I typed. "I was persistent about you, now I'm being persistent about myself." Then I blocked him. The taxi pulled up to Deep Creation. The sun was fully up now. I stepped out, took a deep breath and walked inside. Ji Shun was waiting in the lobby. He was in a sweatshirt and slippers, clearly having rolled straight out of bed. He looked at me with a mix of surprise, admiration, and a hint of pity. Shinji, are you sure about this? President Gu, my time is worth 5,000 an hour, I said. Are you sure you want to waste it asking me stupid questions? Jiushin grinned and stepped aside. After you. I entered the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. Before the doors closed, I took one last look at Fu Yang's last message, "You are nothing without me." I turned the phone off. From this moment on, Shinji was back, not Mrs. Fu, not a loyal dog, and not the woman waiting outside a door with tea. I was Shinji, the woman who once made the entire industry tremble. The next morning at 8:00 am, I walked into the lobby of Fu Corporation. The receptionist's smile faltered when she saw me. "Mrs. Fu, good morning. Call me Shinji." Her smile froze. "MSMS Shin, are you looking for President Fu? He hasn't arrived yet." "I'm not here for him." I walked toward the elevators. "I'm here for my things." I went to the 18th floor, to the office at the very end of the hall. It was mine, technically the special consultant's office, but really just a cubicle Fu Yang had set up for me. No nameplate, no title. I'd even had to buy my own stapler. The door was open, someone was inside. Lin Wanin was sitting in my chair, files were spread across the desk, and she was busy signing something. She was wearing a Chanel suit, her hair perfectly styled, and on her ears were the earrings Fu Yang had given me for my birthday last year, the ones he claimed were custom-made for me. I stood in the doorway, watching her occupy my space, my desk, my files. She looked up, startled for a second before smoothing her expression. She leaned back, crossed her legs, and smiled. "Shinji, what brings you here?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Collecting my things." "Your things?" Lin Wanin looked around. "I don't see anything of yours here." Fu Yang said this office was vacant and told me to use it. I said nothing. She stood up, walked to the filing cabinet and pulled out a folder. She flipped it open and held it out to me. "See, these are all Fu Yang's proposals. His signature is on everything." I glanced down. It was the feasibility report for the South City complex. 320 pages. I had written every word, I had calculated every data point, but on the cover, in bold letters, it read "Lead Strategist Fu Yang." Fu Yang is so talented. Lin Wanin cooed. "These plans are so professional. Being around him all this time, you must have learned a thing or two, right?" I took the folder and flipped through it. It wasn't just the cover. Every chapter heading was marked "Authored by Fu Yang." My name didn't appear once, not even in the footnotes. I closed the folder and looked at her. "Do you actually know who wrote this report?" Lin Wanin tilted her head. "Fu Yang did, it says so right there." I smiled. I pulled my phone from my bag and opened a folder containing the original source files for every project I'd ever handled. I tapped on the South City Complex file and scrolled to the file information. It was all there in black and white. Created March 15, 2022, last modified July 22, 2022. Author Shinji. I turned the screen toward Lin Wanin. "Look closely, these are the timestamps on the source files. I spent 4 months writing this report. Every revision history is logged. There are 17 versions of the draft alone." Lin Wanin's expression shifted, not to guilt but to impatience. "Shinji, I don't really understand these technicalities, but Fu Yang told me that he supervised you on these proposals, so it shouldn't be a problem for his name to be on them, right?" "Supervised?" I tucked my phone away. "The man doesn't even know how to use Excel. You're telling me he supervised me on a 300-page feasibility report?" Lin Wanin's face darkened, her voice turning cold. "Shinji, what is your point exactly? Are you just here to pick a fight?" "I'm here for my things," I repeated. "Every hard copy and digital document in this office is the result of my work over the last 3 years. I have every right to take them." Lin Wanin blocked the filing cabinet. "You can't, these are Fu Corporation trade secrets. You aren't part of this company anymore." "I'm not part of this company." I looked at her. "I've handled every major project for 3 years, and I don't even qualify as a formal employee." "That's your own problem," Lin Wanin sneered. "You're the one who insisted on marrying Fu Yang and playing the little housewife. Nobody forced you." I stared at her for 3 seconds, then I picked up a stack of documents from the desk, flipped to the last page, and pointed at the signature. "Look carefully. I negotiated the contract for this project. I secured the signatures from the partners. What do you think would happen if I called them and explained that these plans were my work, and that Fu Corp is misappropriating my intellectual property?" Lin Wanin's face paled. Just then, heavy, angry footsteps echoed behind me. Fu Yang's voice boomed from the doorway. Shinji, what do you think you're doing? I turned to face him. He was wearing a deep blue suit, his hair perfectly coiffed, wearing the tie I had picked out for him last week. His face was flushed and his eyes bloodshot. He clearly hadn't slept well. He glanced at Lin Wanin, then at the files in my hand. His expression soured further. He marched over, snatched the documents from me and slammed them onto the desk. Who gave you permission to be here? This is Fu Corp property. You aren't an employee. You have no business being in this office. I'm here for my personal belongings, I said. Your personal belongings? Fu Yang scoffed. What do you have that's personal? I bought everything you own. I looked him straight in the eye, enunciating every word. I'm not talking about clothes or bags. I'm talking about the proposals I wrote, the data models I built, and the contracts I negotiated. Those are my intellectual achievements, my intellectual property. Fu Yang's face twitched. Before he broke into a cold laugh, Shinji, get a grip. You wrote those things using Fu Corp equipment, Fu Corp resources, and Fu Corp time. According to labor laws, the copyright for work for hire belongs to the company. Labor laws? I laughed. Fu Yang, did I ever sign an employment contract with Fu Corp? I was your wife, not your employee. You never even paid into my social security. Tell me, how can it be a work for hire without a contract? Fu Yang froze. Lin Wanin chimed in from the side. Fu Yang, she just threatened to tell the partners that she wrote all the proposals herself. Fu Yang's face went completely dark. He stepped into my space and lowered his voice until it was a lethal whisper. Shinji, leave this office right now. If you dare say a word of this outside, I will make sure you are blacklisted from this industry forever. I looked up at him. And how exactly do you plan to do that? You know my connections and my resources, he threatened. Without me, you're nothing. No firm will hire you, and no one will partner with you. Do you believe me? I do, I said. But there's something else I believe more. What? Everything you're so proud of, I gave it to you, and since I gave it to you, I can take it back. Fu Yang's eyes narrowed like a snake whose tail had been stepped on. He stared at me for a long time before erupting into a loud laugh that echoed down the hallway. Shinji, you have a very high opinion of yourself. He turned to the desk, picked up a document and pointed at the cover. Look at this. Whose name is on these plans? Fu Yang. This industry knows Fu Yang. Nobody knows Shinji. You go out and tell people you wrote this. No one will believe you. He was right. For 3 years I had worked in the shadows, letting him take all the credit. The industry knew Mrs. Fu, but they didn't know Shinji. My name had vanished from those circles, but I wasn't worried. I pulled a USB drive from my bag and waved it in front of him. Do you know what's on this? Fu Yang's pupils contracted. At the sight of the drive, it contains every original file, every revision log, every email, and every WeChat screenshot. I said, it includes every requirement you sent me when you asked me to write these plans. Every Shinji, change this part after you reviewed them, and every time you said I'll handle the presentation, you stay home and rest right before you went to see a client. Fu Yang's face drained of color. I continued, and that's not all. You had me use your email to send proposals to clients. But I CC'd my own account every single time. You thought I deleted them. No, I kept everything. Fu Yang lunged for the USB, but I stepped back, easily dodging him. Shinji, his voice was no longer threatening, it was frantic. Do you have any idea what will happen if you go public with this? What will happen? Fu Corp's stock will plummet. Every partner will question our professional integrity. The company will face a massive crisis of trust. His breathing became ragged. You're part of Fu Corp too. If the company goes down, you get nothing. I never planned on getting anything anyway, I said, tucking the drive back into my bag. You made the first move. You tried to block my career, you stole my work, and now you want me to just shut up and take it. Lin Wanin couldn't stand it any longer. She moved to grab Fu Yang's arm, saying softly, Fu Yang, don't argue with her, it's not worth it. She just wants money. Let's just give her a settlement to make her go away. Fu Yang shook her hand off and stared at me. How much do you want? I don't want money. Then what do you want? I looked him in the eye and said, I want you to publicly admit that every core project Fu Corp has handled in the last 3 years was my work. Fu Yang's face twisted. Impossible. Then we have nothing more to talk about. I turned to leave. Shinji, stop. Fu Yang yelled behind me. I didn't stop. He caught up to me and grabbed my arm with such force that it left red marks. He swung me around and pinned me against the wall. His eyes bloodshot as he loomed over me. Listen to me, he whispered desperately. We're in the middle of a massive deal with the Lin Group. I can't afford any negative press right now. Go home for now. Once this deal is closed, we can discuss the divorce properly, okay? Properly. I looked at him. What is there to discuss? Asset division. I'll give you a number you'll be happy with. His eyes flickered. 2 million isn't enough. Fine, I'll give you 5 million. Deal. Fu Yang. I laughed. The market value of the West City redevelopment plan alone is 30 million. And you're offering me 5. His face twitched. Then what do you want? I told you, a public admission. Never. He practically roared. If I admit that, my reputation is ruined. Looking at him, I suddenly found the situation hilarious. This man would rather destroy me than acknowledge I existed. I pushed him away, stood tall and straightened my collar where he'd rumpled it. Fu Yang, I said calmly, within a month you'll be on your knees begging me to come back. He stood there stunned. I stepped into the elevator and hit the button for the first floor. Before the doors slid shut, I heard Lin Wanin's voice from the hallway. Fu Yang, she's a lunatic. Just ignore her. The doors closed. I leaned against the elevator wall and took a deep breath. My phone buzzed with a message from Jiyu Shun. I found it. You've got all of Fu Corp's core projects in your hands. My team is already analyzing the data models. Also, I've set a meeting for 2:00 p.m. President Zhu from Huashin Capital wants to see you. I sent back a one-word reply. Good. I stepped out of the lobby into the blinding sunlight. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I answered. It was Fu Yang's assistant, Xiao Liu, sounding very nervous. Ms. Shun, President Fu told me to tell you that if you don't hand over that USB, his legal team will sue you for theft of trade secrets. Tell him to sue me. I said and hung up. Xiao Liu called back immediately, but I ignored it. Then a text came through. Ms. Shun, President Fu also said that if you're willing to come back, he'll offer you a senior consultant position with a salary of 2 million. But you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement promising never to reveal the work you did for Fu Corp. I looked at the message and laughed. 2 million, 3 years ago. I was clearing 5 million on a single project and an NDA to stay hidden forever. I replied, fine, send over the agreement for me to review. 3 minutes later, a 12-page PDF arrived. I stood in the sunlight and read every single word. The agreement was airtight. The core of it was one clause: Shunji shall not, in any manner, disclose any commercial information encountered during her time at Fu Corp to any third party or face full legal consequences. But a clause on page 12 caught my eye. It read, upon the signing of this agreement, Mr. Fu Yang pledges not to damage Ms. Shunji's professional reputation in any way. Should this pledge be breached, this agreement shall be rendered void and Ms. Shunji shall reserve the right to seek full compensation for all commercial value created for Fu Corp. It was a standard fairness clause the legal team must have added to balance the contract. Fu Yang definitely hadn't read the fine print. I screenshot the clause and sent it to Jiyu Shun. Find me the best commercial lawyer. See if this is enforceable. Jiyu Shun replied instantly, it's enforceable, and if we play this right, you can sue for every bit of value you created for Fu Corp. Conservative estimate, 500 million. I smiled. I messaged Xiao Liu, I'll sign. Tell your boss to be in his office at 3:00 p.m. I hailed a taxi and headed for Jiyu Shun's office at 3:00 p.m. sharp. I appeared at Fu Yang's door. He was sitting behind his desk, the agreement spread out in front of him next to a pen. His expression was a complex mix of triumph, contempt, and something I couldn't quite place, perhaps guilt or perhaps fear. Changed your mind? He asked. I have. I walked over, picked up the pen and signed my name. He looked at my signature and smiled. Shinji, you should have done this sooner. Come back and help me, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. I set the pen down and looked at him. Fu Yang, I didn't come here today to help you. His smile faltered. I came here to tell you, I said, picking up my bag and turning to leave, that this agreement you just signed, it's going to be the end of you. He sat there, speechless. I walked out of the office, leaving the sound of him smashing things behind me before the elevator doors slid shut. I heard him roaring down the hallway. Shinji, what the hell is wrong with you? The doors closed. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to Jiyu Shun. The agreement is signed, we're a go. Jiyu Shun replied. When do we take the first cut? I checked my watch. Now, by 9:00 a.m. the day after signing the agreement, I began to feel the reach of Fu Yang's network. I received my first call from a headhunting firm I had contacted earlier to keep an eye out for opportunities. The consultant's voice was polite but blunt. Ms. Shin, I'm sorry, but regarding the positions we discussed, the clients have decided not to move forward for the time being. The reason, I can't disclose details, but from what I've gathered, an email was circulated within the industry claiming you have, professional ethics issues. Companies are being advised to hire you with extreme caution. I hung up. The second call came 10 minutes later from an old business partner, a friend in real estate investment banking. He said, Shinji, did you piss someone off lately? Words going around our circle that you plagiarized your peers' work and used Fu Group's resources for side gigs. Do you believe that? Of course not, I know your caliber. But the problem is, the one spreading these rumors is Fu Yang's partner. His word carries weight. Several firms have already been tipped off that hiring you is effectively picking a fight with Fu Group. I hung up. The third call was from Ji Yushin, his tone grave. Shinji, Fu Yang made his move. He emailed the top 20 firms in the industry alleging gross professional misconduct and calling for a collective boycott. He's even lobbied a few industry associations to blacklist you. He knows I signed the agreement, so he thinks I won't dare go public with the evidence. Exactly. He thinks your evidence is useless because the NDA forbids you from disclosing anything. I smirked, but he forgot about that one clause in the contract. Right, the life raft, but we can't move just yet. The timing isn't right. You need a breakthrough to show the industry that these allegations are fakes. I have a plan. What plan? He says I'm a plagiarist. Fine. I'll show him who's really stealing from whom. I hung up, opened my laptop and logged into a professional industry forum. It was a real name registration platform for senior real estate professionals. I posted a thread titled, regarding recent allegations against my professional reputation, I have something to say. In the post I didn't mention Fu Yang's name or leak any confidential data. I simply did one thing. I linked a professional article I had published on the forum 3 years ago titled Research on Investment Return Models for Urban Complexes, dated January 2022, then, I posted a screenshot of the project summary for Fu Group's South City complex. The investment return model in their summary was an exact replica of the one in my article. I wrote, some claim I plagiarized. I find it baffling that a model from an article I published 3 years ago has suddenly appeared in a certain company's project proposal this year. I reserve the right to pursue legal action. The forum exploded. That 3-year-old article was my breakout piece. Many in the industry remembered it. With the connection between my work and Fu Group's project laid bare, everyone began to wonder, did Shinji copy Fu Group or was Fu Group riding on Shinji's coattails? In less than an hour, the thread had over 200 comments. I've read Shinji's article. That model is her original creation. No one else in the industry uses it. I've looked into Fu Group's project. The proposal was stunning. But we all assumed Fu Yang designed it. Now, I'm not so sure. The more I think about it, the scarier it gets. If that model belongs to Shinji, then for the last 3 years, Fu Group's projects have been. I refreshed the page. The post had been pinned. 30 minutes later, it was gone, deleted. I logged into the back end only to find my account had been banned for spreading false information and disrupting forum order. No doubt, Fu Yang's people were behind it. But it was too late. The screenshots were already circulating in industry group chats. My WeChat was blowing up with messages from over a dozen peers asking what was going on. I didn't reply to a single one. I needed a bigger stage than a forum. At 2:00 p.m. I got a call from an unknown number. I picked up and a sharp professional woman's voice greeted me. Shinji, this is Ju Minute, investment director at Huishin Capital. Ji Yushin mentioned you. Hello, director. Ju, I'll be brief. I saw your post and I've looked into the situation. She spoke rapidly. I have one question. How much do you actually have? Meaning, how much evidence do you have to prove those projects were yours? Everything. I said, 3 years, 4 core projects, 17 sub-projects. I have every version of every revision for every single proposal. The line went silent for 3 seconds, then Ju Minute spoke. Huishin Capital wants to work with you. We're looking for a strategic consultant to help us break into the commercial real estate market. If you can prove your capability, there's a position for you. What position? Vice President of Strategic Investment. I paused. Vice President, that was a title I would never have been granted at Fu Group. But I have one condition, Ju Minute added. Within a month, you must prove that Fu Group's core projects have intellectual property issues. I'm not asking for a public lawsuit, but we need to see that you have the power to disrupt their business. Consider it done. Also, Ju Min's voice took on a meaningful edge. We'll handle Fu Yang. His industry blacklist doesn't apply here. Huashin isn't a real estate firm. He has no leverage over us. I hung up and leaned back in my chair, smiling. Fu Yang thought he could lock down the entire industry, but he forgot one thing: capital is profit-driven. As long as you hold true value, there will always be someone willing to pay the price. At 4:00 p.m. Fu Yang called me. It was a new number. I'd already blocked his old one. I answered. He was fuming. Shinji, what the hell are you posting on the forum? Have you lost your mind? I've never been clearer. Do you have any idea how close our partners came to calling us for an explanation? If I hadn't had that post deleted immediately, we would have had a disaster on our hands. And you need to stop this instant. You signed the agreement. You cannot disclose any information regarding Fu Group. One more word and I'll have legal sue you into the ground. Fu Yang, my voice was calm. I didn't disclose any confidential information. I posted my own article and my own screenshots. Those have nothing to do with Fu Group, nothing to do with us. You built that model for Fu Group. Posting it is a leak of trade secrets. I developed that model independently 3 years ago. I own the rights. You used my work without credit, and you have the nerve to come after me. Silence stretched over the phone, then Fu Yang's voice shifted. It went soft, pleading. Shinji, let's just talk, okay? Where are you? I'll come to you. No need. Shinji, don't be like this. I know I messed up. I shouldn't have said those things. But think about it. 3 years together. Is it really worth destroying everything over this? Fu Yang, when you were the one destroying everything, did you ask yourself if it was worth it? When you were in the study calling me a obedient dog, did you think about the cost then? That was just heat of the moment. I was joking with Lin Wanin. When you forced me to sign that NDA, did you think it was worth it? The legal team required that. It wasn't me. Enough. I cut him off. Listen carefully, Fu Yang. Within a month, I'm going to show you exactly what worth it looks like. I hung up and blocked his new number. My phone buzzed again, a message from Ji Yushin. Is the deal with Ju Minute set? I replied, set. Then let's begin. First cut, sever the limbs. I've scheduled a meeting with Fu Group's largest partner for tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. You'll be doing the presentation. Understood. I set my phone down and began organizing my files outside. The sky darkened as the city lights flickered on. I sat at the desk in my hotel room, the screen light reflecting off my face as the sound of my typing filled the room. At 2:00 a.m. I finished the first draft of the proposal. At 4:00 a.m. I was on the third revision. At 7:00 a.m. I sent the final version to Ji Yushin. At 8:00 a.m. Ji Yushin replied, perfect, see you this afternoon. At 3:00 p.m. I stood in the conference room of Shunchuan Capital. Sitting across from me was the chairman of Wansheng Group, Zhao Wansheng, Fu Group's biggest partner. Zhao Wansheng was 60 years old with 30 years in real estate. He was an old fox in the industry. He'd been partnering with Fu Group for 2 years and had invested 2 billion into the South City complex. He looked at me with sharp, discerning eyes. So you're Shinji. Good afternoon, Chairman Zhao. Ji Yushin tells me you were the architect behind the South City complex proposal. I was. Then tell me, what was the original investment return you calculated for that project? 12.7%. Zhao Wansheng's eyes narrowed slightly. Fu Yang told me it was 15%. That's because he padded my numbers. I took a document from my bag and slid it across the table. This is the original calculation sheet. Every data point is sourced. Given current market conditions, 12.7% is an optimistic estimate, 15% is impossible. Zhao Wansheng picked up the file, flipping through it page by page. By the time he reached the end, his expression had soured. So Fu Yang lied to me. Not necessarily a lie, he might just be incompetent, I said. But the problem is, if you base your investment decisions on a 15% return, your capital is at massive risk. Zhao Wansheng set the document down and stared at me. What do you want me to do? Simple, suspend your partnership with Fu Group and renegotiate the terms, I said. I will help you draft a new proposal that keeps the returns within a realistic range while lowering your risk exposure. And why would you help me? Because I need you to help me prove something. What? That Fu Group's core projects cannot survive without me. Zhao Wansheng went silent for a long moment, then laughed. Shenji, you are far smarter than Fu Yang, I know. Zhao Wansheng stood up and extended his hand. A pleasure doing business with you. I shook his hand. As I walked out of the meeting room, Ji Yushin was waiting by the door. With a cup of coffee. Done. I took the coffee. Zhao Wansheng will call Fu Yang by 5:00 p.m. today to suspend the partnership. Fu Yang is going to lose his mind. Let him. I took a sip of coffee and looked out the window. Downstairs, a black Maybach was parked at the curb. I knew the license plate well. It was Fu Yang's car. He was here. He had seen my car parked outside and was waiting for me. I pulled out my phone and messaged Ji Yushin. Call me a cab, back door. Ji Yushin glanced at me and nodded. I turned and headed for the rear exit. Behind me, I heard the elevator chime, followed by Fu Yang's heavy footsteps and a roar. Shenji, stop right there. I didn't look back. I slipped into the fire exit and vanished through the back door in the taxi. I checked my phone. A message from Zhao Wansheng's assistant. Chairman Zhao just called President Fu. Partnership suspended. President Fu went ballistic on the phone. I replied with one word. Good. Then I closed my eyes and began preparing the next move. Fu Yang thought a signature could silence me. He thought an industry blacklist could trap me. He thought I was still that woman standing outside his study with a cup of ginseng tea. He didn't realize that from the moment he made me sign that agreement, he had already lost, because that agreement was the first bullet in my counterattack, and he was the one who handed me the gun. Zhao Wansheng's call hit Fu Yang at exactly 4:58 p.m. I heard the news from Fu Yang's assistant, Xiao Liu. He'd been with Fu Yang for 2 years and had always been kind to me. Now he had become my informant, not officially of course, but he accidentally vented to me on WeChat. Xiao Liu's exact words were, Sister Shen, after Chairman Zhao's call, President Fu trashed the office, 3 teacups smashed, 1 laptop destroyed. Ms. Lin is so scared she's hiding in the conference room. I replied, did he hurt anyone? No, just screaming that it has to be Shinji's doing. I put my phone down and didn't respond. The suspension of the Wansheng partnership was no small matter for Fu Group. Wansheng had invested 2 billion in the South City project, accounting for 40% of the total funding. With Zhao Wansheng pulling out, their capital chain was about to snap. But this was only the beginning. Over the next 3 days, I focused on 3 things. First, through Ji Yushin's channels at Shunchuan Capital, I approached another of Fu Group's core partners, Donghai Finance. They had provided a 15 billion yuan loan for Fu Group's East District Industrial Park project at a preferential interest rate. On the condition that the project be completed within a specific time frame, I sent an anonymous report to the CEO of Donghai Finance, detailing a rigorous analysis of the project's actual progress and potential risks. The report didn't mention Fu Yang by name or leak any secrets. It simply used public data and industry standards to conduct a comparative analysis. The conclusion was simple. Actual progress on the East District project was 40% slower than what Fu Group had claimed. At this rate, the project would be delayed by at least a year. A 1-year delay meant a longer recovery cycle for Donghai Finance's loan, resulting in at least 20 million yuan in lost interest. Upon reading the report, the CEO of Donghai Finance immediately dispatched an audit team to inspect Fu Group's books. Second, I contacted 3 major suppliers I knew from the industry, heavyweights who handled construction materials and subcontracting for Fu Group. Fu Yang had been withholding their payments for 3 months, totaling over 80 million yuan, and they were already seething with rage. I acted as a bridge, helping them coordinate a unified front. They sent a joint demand letter to Fu Group. If the debts weren't cleared within a week, they would cease all supplies. If one supplier stops, Fu Group can find a replacement. If all 3 stop simultaneously, their construction sites will be paralyzed. Third, I posted a new thread on the industry forum. This time, I didn't mention Fu Group or any specific project. I simply posted a technical article titled Practical Experience Sharing, Full Cycle Management of Commercial Real Estate Projects. In the article, I meticulously deconstructed the entire process of a commercial real estate project, from land acquisition to operation. detailing specific methodologies and pitfalls for every stage. It was highly professional, data-driven, and rich in case studies, earning immediate praise from peers. But I buried a hook in the case study section. I used the actual data from the South City Complex project without naming it. Anyone in the know would recognize exactly which project I was discussing. While outsiders remained oblivious, the post went viral with over 1,000 shares. The comment section was flooded with peers praising it as pure gold and true professionalism. One user commented, "The caliber of this article is several levels higher than the official proposals Fu Group released." Another replied, "Obviously, because this is the original source, Fu Yang must have seen it, but his hands were tied. I hadn't mentioned Fu Group or leaked confidentialities. He had no grounds to demand a deletion." Within 3 days, I had struck Fu Group's core business lines from 3 directions: their capital chain, their supply chain, and their public reputation. On the morning of the 4th day, Fu Yang called Jiyushin. Jiyushin handed the phone to me and put it on speaker. Fu Yang's voice sounded exhausted. "Jiyushin, are you with Shinji?" Jiyushin looked at me. I shook my head. Jiyushin said, "President Fu, what can I do for you? I'm asking you, is Shinji there?" "Shinji, isn't she in the middle of a divorce with you? Why would she be with me?" "Stop pretending." Fu Yang's voice turned shrill. Zhao Wansheng's sudden withdrawal, Donghai Finance's audit, the collective pressure from suppliers. Shinji is behind all of it. She couldn't have pulled this off without your help. Jiyushin chuckled. "President Fu, are you mistaken? Shinji is just a housewife. What power could she possibly have?" "A housewife?" Fu Yang practically roared. "If she's a housewife, then there are no professionals left in this industry." "Jiyushin, I'm warning you, if you dare help her, you're making an enemy of Fu Group." "President Fu, let's not be dramatic. I'm just an investor. I invest in whatever project looks good." "You." "President Fu," Jiyushin interrupted, "I suggest you focus your energy on solving your own problems instead of wasting time with me." Zhao Wansheng withdrew because your project's returns were flawed. Donghai Finance is auditing you because your progress is severely lagging. Suppliers are demanding payment because you owe them money. What does any of that have to do with Shinji? A long silence followed, then Fu Yang spoke, his voice so quiet I could barely hear it. "Jiyushin, tell her I'm willing to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "The divorce terms. Whatever she wants, I'll give." Jiyushin looked at me. I picked up the phone, turned off the speaker, and held it to my ear. "Fu Yang, I don't want your money." The line went dead for 2 seconds before Fu Yang's voice returned, now strangely soft, so soft I almost didn't recognize him. You finally picked up. "Don't call me Gigi." "Fine, Shinji, tell me, what do you want?" "I want you to publicly admit at the industry annual conference that every core project Fu Group has handled in the last 3 years was my work." "Impossible." "Then there's nothing to talk about." "Shinji," his voice grew sharp again, "do you have any idea what you're doing? You're destroying Fu Group if Fu Group falls. You get nothing. I told you I don't want anything, I only want justice." "Justice?" Fu Yang laughed, a bitter sound. "Shinji, do you think there's such a thing as justice in this industry? You think you've won, you've offended Fu Group and the Lin family who will dare work with you after this. That is none of your concern." "Shinji, I'm asking you one last time, how much money do you want?" "I don't want money." 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. "Shinji, 50 million is enough for you to live on for the rest of your life." I hung up. Jiyushin watched me, his expression complex. "You really don't want the money?" "No." "Then what is it you're after?" I looked at him and said, "I want him to know that some things cannot be bought." Jiyushin remained silent for a long time before saying, "Shinji, you are the most terrifying woman I've ever met." "Thank you. That wasn't a compliment." "I know." On the 5th day, Zhao Wansheng officially announced his withdrawal from the South City Complex project. The news was posted in an industry group by his assistant in very corporate language. Given the significant uncertainty regarding the project's investment returns, Wansheng Group has decided to suspend its investment in the South City Complex, pending a re-evaluation. Translated into plain English, Fu Yang lied to us, so we're out. Following the news, Fu Group's stock price plummeted 8% that day. On the 6th day, Donghai Finance's audit report was released. It stated that the East District Industrial Park was 4 months behind its contractual schedule, contradicting Fu Group's on-track claims. Donghai Finance demanded a rectification plan within 15 days. Or they would recall the loan early. The stock dropped another 5% on the 7th day. The joint demand letter from the 3 suppliers landed on Fu Yang's desk. The wording was severe. Failure to settle all outstanding debts within 7 days will result in an immediate cessation of all supplies with all legal rights reserved. The site foreman called Fu Yang. President Fu, we only have enough steel and cement for 3 days. If no more arrives, the whole site shuts down. Fu Yang spent 10 minutes screaming into the phone. On the 8th day I went to see Ju Minute. Huashin Capital's office was on the 68th floor of the China World Tower, offering a sweeping view of the city skyline. Ju Minute was waiting in the conference room with a contract on the table. She got straight to the point. Shenji, Huashin Capital officially invites you to serve as Vice President of Strategic Investment with an annual salary of 3 million yuan plus project bonuses. Your first task, help us secure the West City Urban Renewal Project. I opened the contract, read it for 3 minutes and signed. Ju Minute smiled. Welcome aboard. Thank you. By the way, Ju Minute handed me a document. This is Fu Group's recent stock chart. In the 8 days since you started, their market value has evaporated by 4 billion yuan. I took the file and glanced at it. The curve was a downward slide like a falling flag. Ju Minute continued. Fu Yang is in a total mess. Word is he was grilled by the board of directors for 3 hours yesterday. The senior shareholders are demanding an immediate resolution or they'll move to oust him. He won't be ousted just yet, I said. He holds 35% of the shares. He's the largest shareholder. The board can't touch him easily. So to get him out we have to go after his shares. Ju Min's eyes lit up. You have a plan? Yes, I said. But I need time. How long? A month. Fine, I'll wait for your results. I left Huashin Capital and took the elevator down at the ground floor. A car was waiting outside. The window rolled down to reveal Fu Yang's mother, my mother-in-law Zhao Shuyi at 58. Zhao Shuyi was well preserved and elegant. She wore a dark grey cashmere coat, her hair neatly pinned, her expression calm. Get in, she said. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the door and sat beside her. The car was warm and smelled faintly of sandalwood. Zhao Shuyi looked straight ahead and said, Shenji, I know what's going on between you and Fu Yang. Mom, don't call me that, she interrupted. I'm not your mother and you aren't my daughter, but I need to tell you something. What is it? I know everything Fu Yang has done, using you as a tool, keeping another woman, saying those vile things. She turned to look at me, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. I won't apologize for him. Apologies are useless. But I will tell you this, Fu Yang is not a biological son of the Fu family. I was stunned. Zhao Shuyi took a document from her bag and handed it to me. I adopted him from a hospital 30 years ago. I don't know who his biological parents are. But I do know this, all of the Fu family's assets are ancestral. He has no blood claim to them. I took the document. The first page was an adoption agreement from 30 years ago. I've never shown him this, Zhao Shuyi said. I raised him as my own, but his actions over these years have left me utterly disappointed. Shenji, if you want to fight him I won't stop you, but I have one condition. What condition? Don't hurt Fu Group. It represents 3 generations of my family's hard work. It cannot be destroyed by him. I looked into her eyes for a long time, then I spoke. I won't hurt Fu Group. The only one I intend to hurt is Fu Yang. Zhao Shui nodded. She took a key from her bag and handed it to me. This is the key to the Fu family's old estate. If you need a place to stay, you're welcome there anytime. As I took the key, a swirl of conflicting emotions rose within me. Zhao Shui said, Shenji, do you know why I agreed to let Fu Yang marry you? It wasn't because of your beauty or your utility. It was because I felt you were the only person who could truly keep him in check. I couldn't. No, you could. You just refused to play dirty. She sighed. You were too kind. I smiled. Mom, I'm not kind. Then you are determined. Zhao Shui stared at me, startled for a moment, then laughed. Good, very well, Shenji, go on then. I stepped out of the car and watched as she disappeared into the traffic, gripping the key and the adoption agreement. I felt the cards in my hand grow even stronger. I sent a message to Ji Yushin. Fu Yang isn't a biological Fu, I have the adoption papers. Ji Yushin replied instantly. What? Keep it quiet for now, this is a card for the endgame. Just how many cards are you holding? I smiled and didn't reply. I tucked the papers into my bag and took a taxi to the Fu estate. It was a 3-story villa in an old alleyway in the north of the city, a Republic-era building with ginkgo trees that had stood for decades. Zhao Shui lived here alone. Fu Yang rarely visited. I opened the door. The courtyard was silent, save for the rustle of ginkgo leaves in the wind. I sat on the sofa in the living room and checked my phone. Xiao Liu had sent a message. Sister Shen, President Fu received a lawyer's letter from Zhao Wansheng this afternoon demanding liquidated damages. After reading it, he sat in his office in a daze for an hour. I replied. He didn't lose his temper. No, he just sat there silent. Ms. Lin went to see him and he ignored her. She left in a huff. I placed my phone on the coffee table and closed my eyes. Fu Yang was starting to crumble. Not because he realized he was wrong, but because he realized he had lost control. And I was just getting started. On the 15th day, the industry annual conference was held at the Peninsula Hotel. This was the biggest event of the year for the real estate world, attended by every major boss, executive, and investor. Last year, I had attended as Mrs. Fu, sitting in a corner where no one noticed me. This year, I arrived as the vice president of Huashan Capital. Seated in the front row, Ju Minute had picked out a sharp, black tailored suit dress for me, paired with red-bottomed heels. I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman who wore an apron and brewed ginseng tea in the kitchen was gone. The hall was bustling with the sounds of clinking glasses and networking. I stood in a corner with a glass of champagne, watching the crowd. Fu Yang arrived, with Lin Wanin by his side. He wore a custom black suit, but he looked terrible, haggard, with sunken eyes and prominent cheekbones. He clearly hadn't slept. Lin Wanin clung to his arm in a sweet white gown, her smile bright, but her eyes were darting around, checking to see who was watching. The moment Fu Yang entered, he saw me. His pace faltered. He stared at me with an expression of fury, shock, and something else I couldn't quite define. Lin Wanin saw me too. Her smile flickered for a second before she tightened her grip on Fu Yang's arm. I ignored them and turned back to speak with Ju Minute. The schedule for the annual conference was as follows: an opening speech by the host, the release of industry reports, a roundtable forum, and finally a gala dinner. The topic for the roundtable was the next decade of commercial real estate. There were 5 invited guests: Fu Yang, Zhao Wansheng, Ji Yushen, an industry expert, and myself. This was Ju Min's arrangement. She said, "You need to make an appearance in front of everyone. Let the industry know that Shenji is back." The forum began, and the moderator introduced the guests one by one. When he reached me, he said, "Our final guest is Ms. Shenji, the newly appointed vice president of Huashan Capital." Ms. Shen was once a top-tier commercial strategy consultant who stepped away 3 years ago. Today she makes her grand return. Whispers broke out among the audience. Fu Yang sat 2 seats away from me. His fists were clenched so tightly his knuckles were white. The moderator opened the floor. "Guests, what do you believe is the greatest challenge currently facing commercial real estate?" Zhao Wansheng spoke first, offering some diplomatic clichés. Ji Yushen followed with insights from a capital perspective. The expert provided some theoretical analysis. Then it was Fu Yang's turn. He cleared his throat and said, "I believe the greatest challenge is the lack of professional integrity. Currently, many companies chase short-term gains at the expense of professional accumulation. Some have even used improper means to steal trade secrets, disrupting the industry's order." As he spoke, his eyes remained fixed on me. The audience picked up on the subtext and the atmosphere grew tense. Sensing the friction, the moderator quickly pivoted. "Ms. Shenji, what is your perspective?" I picked up the microphone, looked at the audience and smiled. "I agree with President Fu. Professional capability is vital," I said. "But I believe that even more important than capability is honesty." The room went silent. For the past 3 years, I left this industry to attend to other matters. Upon my return, I noticed a very interesting phenomenon. Certain companies' core project proposals bear a striking resemblance to an article I wrote 3 years ago. Fu Yang's face darkened. I continued, "I won't name the company or the project, but I hope that if someone has used another's work, they at least owe the original creator an explanation." The crowd began to murmur. Fu Yang suddenly stood up, slamming his microphone onto the table with a deafening thud. He glared at me, his voice booming through the hall. "Shenji, what is that supposed to mean? What are you implying?" I looked at him calmly. President Fu, I'm not implying anything, I'm simply describing a common phenomenon. Common phenomenon, you're talking about me, you're saying I stole your proposal. The room erupted, reporters' cameras began to click incessantly, the flashes illuminating the stage like daylight. I stood up and looked Fu Yang in the eye, my voice wasn't loud, but every word was crystal clear. President Fu, I never mentioned your name, but since you've decided the shoe fits, let me ask you a question. Did you write the feasibility report for the South City complex? Fu Yang's lips trembled. Of course I. Then tell me, what is the third data point in section 2 of chapter 3? Fu Yang froze. The hall became so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. I spoke into the silence. That figure is 473. It is the comprehensive plot ratio for the South City site. I spent 2 months working with the planning bureau to obtain that specific data. No one else in the industry knew it. Fu Yang's face turned from dark to pale, then to a sickly green. If you truly authored that report, you would know that number, I said, watching him. The fact that you don't proves you didn't write it. Fu Yang opened his mouth but no words came out. Lin Wanyin rushed onto the stage from the audience, grabbing Fu Yang's arm and shouting at the reporters, "Stop taking pictures, this is a private matter, it has nothing to do with the industry." I laughed. Miss Lin, this isn't a private matter. This is a question of professional ethics. Who is actually qualified to speak for this industry? If someone lacks even the most basic professional competency, what right do they have to sit on this stage? Fu Yang shoved Lin Wanyin's hand away and pointed at me. Shinji, you just wait. He turned and stormed off the stage, with Lin Wanyin chasing after him. Reporters swarmed them, creating an impenetrable blockade. I stood on the stage watching the chaos and raised the microphone. Everyone, I apologize for that little farce. Now, shall we get back to the actual discussion? Applause broke out. It wasn't polite, perfunctory applause, it was genuine, filled with respect. Ji Yushin leaned in and whispered, "That was brutal." "I'm not finished," I replied. "That was just the appetizer." After the forum, I was besieged by reporters. A dozen microphones were shoved in my face, questions hitting me like artillery. Ms. Shin, what is your actual relationship with Fu Yang? Are you two divorcing? Were the Fu Group projects really your work? I didn't answer any of them directly. I simply said, all answers will be made public at the appropriate time. Then, escorted by security, I left the venue. Back at the hotel, I opened my phone to find the industry groups in a state of total explosion. Fu Yang got slapped in the face by Shinji in front of everyone. Magnificent. I always felt those Fu Group proposals weren't his. A guy who can't even use Excel couldn't write a report of that caliber. Shinji is a badass. How did I never realize how capable she was? Did you notice he couldn't even remember his own data? If word gets out, who's going to partner with him? I scrolled through the messages, the corners of my mouth curving upward. The phone rang. It was Fu Yang. I picked up. His voice was hoarse, as if he had been screaming in his car. Shinji, are you satisfied now? Regarding what? What you said today at the conference, do you have any idea of the consequences? Do you know what's going to happen to Fu Group stock when the market opens tomorrow? I know, you know, and you still did it. Are you really so intent on destroying me? Fu Yang, I said, I didn't destroy you, you destroyed yourself. I destroyed myself. What did I do wrong? I said a few things in anger. Does that justify this kind of revenge? A few things in anger. I laughed. You blocked my career, ensuring no firm in the industry would hire me. Is that just anger? You claimed my work as your own and took all the credit. Is that anger? You called me an obedient dog in your study in front of another woman. Is that just anger? Silence hung heavy on the line. Then Fu Yang's voice became very soft, almost a whisper. Shinji, I'm sorry. I paused. In 3 years that was the first time he had ever apologized to me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said those things. His voice was shaking. I know I was wrong. Come back, let's make it work. Okay, I'll make Lin Wanyin leave. I'll never see her again. Fu Yang, do you really think I'd ever believe you again? What do I have to do to make you believe me? I want you to admit everything publicly at a press conference tomorrow. If you're unwilling, then we're done talking. I'll do it, he shouted frantically. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll hold a press conference. I'll admit in front of everyone that the projects were yours. Okay. I waited 3 seconds, then I said, fine, tomorrow at 2:00 p.m. at the Fu Group headquarters. I'll be waiting. I hung up. Ji Yushin looked at me. You believe him? Not for a second. Then why did you agree? Because I know exactly what he's actually going to do, I said. He said those things just to stall me. Tomorrow he'll try something else. What? He'll flip the script, he'll pin everything on me, allege I had an affair, stole trade secrets and am acting out of malicious revenge. He needs the industry to believe that I am the villain. Ji-Yushin frowned. So what's your move? I'm waiting for him to do exactly that. I smiled. Because the more he lies, the more powerful my evidence becomes. At 2:00 p.m. the next day, I arrived at the Fu Group headquarters, but the press conference wasn't there. Fu Yang had changed the location at the last minute to a ballroom at the Peninsula Hotel. He had notified all major media outlets, including TV stations and live streaming platforms. I didn't go in. I sat on a sofa in the lobby and opened the live stream on my phone. Fu Yang stood on the stage, looking somber with bloodshot eyes, appearing as if he hadn't slept at all. Lin Wanyin was nowhere to be seen. He began to speak. Members of the media, I called this conference today to clarify a few things. Reporters held up their cameras, waiting for the bombshell. Recently, a series of false allegations have been made against me and the Fu Group, claiming our core projects were not led by me. These accusations are completely fabricated, a malicious attempt to slander my reputation. My fingers tightened on the phone. The person behind this is my wife, Shenji. Fu Yang's voice took on a pained tone. Our marriage has recently hit a rough patch, and she is currently seeking a divorce to gain a larger share of the assets. She has stooped to concocting lies to destroy my reputation and sabotage Fu Group's operations. A stir went through the press corps. I want to clarify 3 facts. Fu Yang held up a document for the cameras. First, all core Fu Group proposals were led by me. Shinji only participated as an assistant in a supporting capacity. Second, during our marriage, Shinji repeatedly used Fu Group resources for private gain, which she did in secret until I discovered it. Third, she is currently collaborating with Fu Group's largest competitor to steal our trade secrets. I leaned back on the sofa and laughed at the screen. Predictable. Therefore, Fu Yang's voice grew firm. I have decided to take legal action to protect myself and the Fu Group. I have instructed my legal team to file a lawsuit against Shenji for infringement of trade secrets and defamation. The room erupted. Reporters scrambled to ask questions while Fu Yang spoke eloquently from the stage, shifting every ounce of blame onto me. I watched the entire conference, then tucked my phone away, stood up and walked out. Ji-Yushin called. Did you see it? I saw it. What now? We wait. For what? For him to finish digging his own grave. That evening, a lawyer's letter from Fu Yang was delivered to me. I took a photo of it and posted it to my Moments with the caption, "Received something very interesting today. Tomorrow I'll show you all something even more interesting." Within 10 minutes, the post had over 100 likes and comments. Everyone was speculating about what I was about to release. The next morning at 9:00 a.m. I uploaded an audio recording online. It was 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, the conversation between Fu Yang and Lin Wanyin in the study. From "She's just an obedient dog I keep to give her 2 million to get rid of her." Every word was crystal clear, no edits, no filters, raw. I posted it on a video site with the title, "Me in My Husband's Words, a Real Recording." Within 10 minutes it had 100,000 views, in 30 minutes 1 million, in an hour 5 million. The comment section was on fire. What kind of animal says things like that? 3 years of sacrifice for an obedient dog. This man is disgusting. Support the divorce. Wait, he said dump her once she hands over the proposal. So the projects really were his wife's work. Fu Yang reacted quickly. An hour later, Fu Group's legal department issued a statement claiming the recording was maliciously edited and taken out of context and constituted severe defamation, vowing to pursue the uploader legally, but it was too late. Simultaneously with the audio, I released another document, a screenshot of the original file timestamps for the South City Complex project. It clearly showed the author of every single file was Shenji. I also included links to the articles I had published 3 years ago and a side-by-side comparison with Fu Group's proposals, showing a similarity rate of over 90%. I dropped all the evidence at once, not for Fu Yang to see, but for the entire industry. By noon, Fu Group's stock plummeted again, dropping 15%, a record low at 2:00 p.m. Fu Yang's lawyer called me, his tone aggressive. "Ms. Shun, the content you've released severely infringes on our client's privacy and reputation. We demand an immediate deletion and a public apology. I replied, tell Fu Yang to come and talk to me himself, our client. Tell him to come, otherwise, I have 3 more recordings ready for release. There was a silence on the other end, then the lawyer said, I will pass that on. At 4:00 p.m. Fu Yang arrived. He appeared at the hotel entrance in his black trench coat, his face ashen and eyes swollen. He stood in the lobby watching me approach, his lips twitching. Shinji, let's talk. About what? Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I want a public admission. I'll admit it, he practically yelled. I'll admit you did those proposals, okay, just delete those files. Not in private, I said, in public, in front of the entire industry. Fu Yang's face contorted. Shinji, are you trying to drive me to my death? Fu Yang, I'm not driving you anywhere, I'm just making you acknowledge the truth. The truth is you've ruined me. His voice became hysterical. Do you know how much the stock dropped today? 15% for billion yuan. For billion is gone. The board wants to remove me. The Lin family is cutting ties. I have nothing left. You have nothing left. I looked at him. And what about me? I gave you 3 years of my life. Where were you when I had nothing? You were holding another woman in your study, calling me an obedient dog. Fu Yang's tears began to fall. He sank to his knees. Right there in the hotel lobby, in front of the receptionists, the security guards and the guests passing by, he knelt before me. Shinji, I'm begging you. His voice was so hoarse it was barely audible. I'm begging you, delete those things and I'll agree to anything. You want me to admit it publicly, I'll admit it. You want a divorce, I'll sign, I'll give you whatever you want. I looked down at him, watching him grovel on the floor. I felt no rush of pleasure nor any pity. I felt only one thing, disgust. Stand up, Fu Yang. I'm not getting up until you agree. Then stay there. I turned and walked toward the elevator. He shouted from behind me, Shinji, you can't do this to me. I've sacrificed so much for you. I stopped and looked back at him. What exactly have you sacrificed for me? He froze. Go on, tell me. What did you sacrifice? His mouth opened and closed, then closed and opened again, but not a single word came out. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button to close the doors. Just before they shut, I heard a soul-wrenching roar echo through the lobby. Back in my room, Jiyushin sent me a message. Someone filmed Fu Yang kneeling in the lobby and posted it online. I know, I replied. Did you arrange that? No, but I don't mind. You're a legend in the industry now. Everyone knows you were the real mastermind behind those Fu Group projects. Huaxin's stock price is even climbing because of it. Help me set up a meeting with the Fu Group board members. I want to talk to them. About what? Fu Yang's future at the company. Didn't you say the board couldn't touch him? He holds a 35% stake. He won't have it for much longer. What do you mean? I didn't reply. I pulled a document from my bag, the adoption agreement Zhao Shuyi had given me. Then I dialed a number. Hello? Lawyer Chen, it's Shinji. I need you to do something for me. Check the equity structure of the Fu Group, specifically look into the source of Fu Yang's 35% stake. Lawyer Chen was an old college classmate and is now a top-tier equity lawyer, he said. No need to check, I already know. Fu Yang inherited those shares from the Fu family. When the old master Fu passed away, he left everything to him. But what if he isn't the Fu family's biological son? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Shinji, what are you saying? I'm saying if Fu Yang isn't a blood relative of the Fu family, is that will still valid? If the adoption process was illegal or if the adoptive relationship had been dissolved at the time of inheritance, the validity of the will could be challenged. But that's a very complex legal issue. It would mean a lawsuit. Then we sue. Do you have evidence? I do. I have the original adoption agreement in my hands, and I have testimony from Fu Yang's mother. Chen was quiet for a moment before saying, Shinji, if what you're saying is true, at least half of Fu Yang's shares could be clawed back. Not half, I said, all of them, all of them. When Master Fu passed away, Fu Yang hadn't contributed anything to the company. Those shares represent the accumulation of 3 generations of the Fu family. They have absolutely nothing to do with him. But legally speaking, if an adoption is valid, the child has inheritance rights. But if the adoption is found to be invalid or was dissolved, the situation changes. It won't be simple, which is why we need to go to court. I said, I need you to prepare the materials. Understood, give me a week. I hung up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. My phone rang again. It was Ju Minute. Shunji, there's news from the board. 3 independent directors have jointly called for Fu Yang's resignation, and 2 executive directors have voted in favor. Fu Yang's support on the board has dropped below 30%, but he still has that 35% stake. He can veto any board resolution. Exactly, that's why we need to go after the shares soon, I said. Just give me a little more time. Alright. Oh, one more thing. The Lin Group officially announced they're terminating all cooperation with the Fu Group, Lin Wanin's father said during an internal meeting. If Fu Yang can't even manage his own marriage, how can we trust him to manage a partnership? I smiled. What about Lin Wanin? Word is she had a massive fight with Fu Yang and moved out of his apartment. Good. I hung up and lay on the bed, closing my eyes. Fu Yang was probably in his apartment right now, alone, surrounded by a room full of smashed belongings. He was likely wondering how it had all come to this. He was probably thinking about how, just 3 months ago, he was the industry's most golden young talent, with a listed company, a beautiful girlfriend, and a bright future. And now he had nothing. But he would never realize that the root of all this was that one sentence he uttered in his study: "She's nothing more than an obedient dog I've raised." That sentence was a seed he planted with his own hands. Now it had grown into a towering tree that was crushing him beneath its weight. On the 23rd day, a notice for an interview with the financial regulatory authorities was delivered to Fu Yang's office. I wasn't the one who reported him, it was Zhao Wansheng. After Zhao Wansheng withdrew his investment, he conducted an internal audit of his team. He discovered that during the financing process for the South City Integrated Project, the Fu Group had provided fraudulent financial statements and project progress reports. Zhao Wansheng couldn't swallow the insult and reported them directly to the regulators. The meeting was set for 2:00 p.m. in an interrogation room at the regulatory agency. As the vice president of Huishin Capital, I was also asked to assist with the investigation. Since Huishin was a competitor, I needed to provide some industry background. The investigation room was in a grey building, sparsely decorated and harshly lit, with a national flag on the wall. 3 investigators sat on one side of a long table with the subject on the other. When I arrived, Fu Yang was already seated. He was wearing a crumpled shirt, his tie was crooked, his hair was unkempt, and dark stubble covered his chin. 23 days ago, he was the sharp-suited, high-spirited CEO Fu. Now, he looked like a plucked peacock. When he saw me enter, the light in his eyes flickered out, then flared up again with a terrifying intensity. "Shunji," he rasped, his voice sounding like sandpaper. "CEO Fu, what are you doing here?" Assisting with the investigation. The investigators began their questioning. Their questions were sharp. "Mr. Fu, based on the materials provided by the Wansheng Group, the financial statements you submitted during the financing of the South City project contained fraudulent data. How do you explain this?" Fu Yang's Adam's apple bobbed. "That was a mistake by the finance department. I wasn't aware of the specifics. You're the CEO and you weren't aware." Furthermore, the progress report stated the project was 60% complete, but Wansheng's audit team found the actual progress is only 35%. How do you explain that? Beads of sweat began to form on Fu Yang's forehead. That's because the contractor's method of calculating progress was different. Can a different method result in a 25% discrepancy? Fu Yang fell silent. The investigators asked over a dozen more questions, each one like a blade carving into him. His answers were fragmented and contradictory. I felt embarrassed just watching him. Finally, an investigator said, "Mr. Fu, based on the evidence we currently have, the Fu Group has committed serious violations during the financing process. We will be conducting an in-depth investigation. During this time as CEO, you are required to cooperate and are prohibited from leaving the country." Fu Yang's face went completely bloodless. After the session, Fu Yang cornered me in the hallway. "Shunji, did you make Zhao Wansheng report me?" "No." "Then how did he find out about those things?" "What he knows has nothing to do with me. What you did is the only thing that matters. You, Fu." Yang's lips were trembling. "Are you really not going to stop until you've sent me to prison?" "I'm not the one sending you to prison, the law is." "Shunji," he grabbed my arm with bruising force. "Help me once, just once. You're on good terms with Zhao Wansheng. Put in a good word for me, get him to drop the charges." I'll give you anything you want, anything, yes anything, then I want your shares. Fu Yang's grip loosened, he took a step back staring at me in total shock. What did you say? I said I want your shares, transfer your 35% stake to me, and I'll talk to Zhao Wanxing about dropping the charges. You're crazy, that's my entire net worth. Do you have a choice? I looked him in the eye. Either you hand over the shares and keep your freedom, or you go to prison and your shares get frozen anyway. It's your call. Fu Yang stared at me for a long time. The expression on his face shifted from rage to fear, from fear to despair, and finally to a hollow emptiness. Shinji, are you really this heartless? I'm not heartless, I said. I'm just not a fool anymore. I turned and walked away. Behind me I heard Fu Yang's voice faint, as if he were talking to himself. How did I ever end up marrying a woman like you? I didn't look back. On the 30th day, Lawyer Chen's investigation results came in. When he called, his voice was buzzing with excitement. Shinji, I found it. There were indeed major issues with Fu Yang's adoption. Back then, Zhao Shui took him from a private hospital. The paperwork was incomplete and was never filed with the Bureau of Civil Affairs. Under the law, this adoption is invalid. What does invalid mean for us? It means that legally, Fu Yang is not the Fu family's adopted son. He has no right of inheritance to their assets. The shares left by the old master Fu should have gone to the legal heir, Zhao Shui. Is Zhao Shui willing to transfer the shares to me? She already signed the power of attorney. She said that leaving the Fu group in your hands is the only way she can rest easy. I hung up and stared at the authorization on my desk for a long time. Zhao Shui, my mother-in-law, and Fu Yang's mother, biological or not, had chosen to stand with me. It wasn't because she hated Fu Yang. It was because she knew the Fu group could only survive if it were in my hands. I picked up the phone and dialed Fu Yang's number. He picked up, sounding exhausted. What is it? Fu Yang, I need you to attend the board meeting tomorrow. Board meeting? What board meeting? An extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. The agenda is the restructuring of the board. Who called for it? I did. There was a long silence on the line. Shinji, on what grounds are you calling a shareholders meeting? You aren't even a shareholder. You'll find out tomorrow. I hung up at 9:00 a.m. the next morning. The extraordinary general meeting of the Fu Group shareholders convened on schedule. The conference room was packed, over 20 shareholders, along with lawyers, accountants, and members of the press. Fu Yang sat on the rostrum, his face a grim mask of iron, an agenda laid out before him. I sat in the audience, with Lawyer Chen by my side. As the meeting commenced, the moderator read out the agenda. Then Fu Yang stood up. I object to all items on this agenda, he declared. According to the company bylaws, only shareholders holding more than 5% of shares have the right to call an extraordinary meeting. Shinji doesn't hold a single share. She has no standing to initiate this meeting. I stood up, walked to the stage, and pulled a document from my bag, placing it under the projector. This is a share transfer agreement signed by Ms. Zhao Shui. She has transferred her entire 30% stake in the Fu Group to me. The room erupted into an uproar. Fu Yang lunged to his feet, his chair crashing to the floor with a heavy thud. Impossible, my mother would never give her shares to you. She's my mother. She is your mother, but more importantly, she is the daughter-in-law of the Fu family. I looked him straight in the eye. Fu Yang, do you know why you were able to hold a 35% stake? Because you believed you were the Fu family's adopted son with inheritance rights. But did you know your adoption papers were incomplete and legally void? Fu Yang's face turned deathly pale. In other words, you have no legal claim to the Fu family's estate. Those shares rightfully belonged to Zhao Shui all along, and now she has given them to me. You're lying. Fu Yang's voice was practically a roar. You forged those documents. Lawyer Chen stood up and joined me on stage. Addressing the crowd, I am the legal representative for Ms. Shinji. I can attest that this transfer agreement is authentic, valid, and has been notarized. Furthermore, I have a court ruling right here confirming that Mr. Fu Yang's adoption is invalid, and he holds no rights to the Fu family inheritance. Fu Yang collapsed back into his chair. The room fell into a dead silence. The moderator cleared his throat. Based on the new equity structure, Ms. Shinji currently holds 30% of the Fu Group, making her the largest shareholder. She is well within her rights to call this meeting and call for a board restructuring. The ensuing vote was a foregone conclusion. Fu Yang was stripped of his position as CEO. I was elected as the new CEO. The board underwent a total overhaul. Every single one of Fu Yang's loyalists was ousted. The entire process took less than an hour. As the meeting adjourned, reporters swarmed me, trapping me in a sea of flashing lights. Questions surged toward me like a tide. Ms. Shinji, how do you feel right now? Ms. Shinji, how do you plan to handle Fu Yang? Ms. Shinji, will the divorce proceedings continue? I offered only one sentence: I will take the Fu Group to new heights. As for Fu Yang, he no longer has any connection to this company. Walking out of the conference room, I saw Fu Yang in the hallway. He was leaning against the wall, his suit jacket draped over his arm, his collar open, and his tie nowhere to be seen. His eyes were bloodshot and the muscles in his face were twitching. Seeing me, his lips moved as if to speak, but no words came out. I stopped in front of him. Fu Yang, do you remember what you said in your study? He remained silent. You said I was an obedient dog. I looked into his eyes. Well, now that dog has bitten you, does it hurt? Tears began to stream down his face. Shinji, save it, I interrupted. From today on, you are nothing to the Fu Group. My lawyer has prepared the divorce papers. All you need to do is sign. I don't want a divorce. You don't have a choice. I turned to leave. Fu Yang's voice drifted from behind me, so faint it was almost a whisper. Shinji, I love you. I paused, but I didn't turn around. Fu Yang, you don't love me, you just need me. Those are two very different things. I stepped into the elevator and the doors slid shut. As the elevator descended 1 floor, 2 floors, 3, I leaned against the wall and took a deep, steadying breath. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Ji Yushin. Congratulations, CEO Shin. I replied with one word. Thanks. It buzzed again. It was due minute. The board at Huashin asked me to tell you they are proud of you. I replied, thank you. The phone buzzed a third time, this time from an unknown number. I answered. It was Zhao Shuyi. Shinji, you did it. Mom, thank you. Don't thank me, this was your own doing. Zhao Shuyi's voice was calm. Fu Yang came to see me. He asked why I gave the shares to you. What did you tell him? I told him it's because you have a conscience and he doesn't. I smiled. Shun. Ji. Zhao Shuyi's voice wavered, turning slightly choked. He wronged you, but he is still the son I raised for 30 years. Could you try not to push him too far into a corner? Mom, I won't. I'm only taking back what belongs to me. Good, that's good. I hung up, exited the elevator, and pushed through the building's main doors. The sunlight hit my face, warm and bright. Standing on the steps, I looked out at the distant skyline and took another deep breath. 30 days from that half-hour outside the study door to standing here now, I had done it. But the story wasn't over yet. On the 35th day, the Lin Group officially announced the termination of their engagement with the Fu Group. Not the engagement between Fu Yang and Lin Wanyin that was already dead. This was the strategic partnership agreement. Worth 5 billion, the Fu Group's most vital engine for growth over the next 3 years. Lin Wanyin's father, Lin Guodong, held a press conference himself. His wording was strictly professional. In light of recent significant changes within the Fu Group, the Lin Group has decided to re-evaluate the basis of our partnership and suspend all projects that have not yet commenced. Translated into plain English, Fu Yang is finished, so we're out. But what truly broke Fu Yang wasn't Lin Guodong's statement. It was an interview Lin Wanyin gave after the conference. A reporter asked her, Miss Lin, what is the current status of your relationship with Mr. Fu Yang? Lin Wanyin smiled at the camera, a sweet, cloying smile exactly like her laughter in the study that night. She said, Mr. Fu Yang and I are just ordinary friends. There have been many misunderstandings regarding our relationship. In fact, there has never been anything beyond friendship between us. What she meant was, nothing happened between us, so don't drag me into his mess. Yet 3 days ago she was staying over at Fu Yang's apartment. A week ago she was on his arm at an industry gala. A month ago she was sitting on his lap asking, when are you going to divorce her? And now she was saying just ordinary friends. The interview was clipped into short videos and went viral in the comments. Some called her a manipulative snake. Others said she was kicking a man while he's down, but most were saying, Fu Yang deserves it, this is karma. I was reviewing documents in my office when the video popped up on my phone. I watched it for 30 seconds and then closed it. It wasn't that I didn't want to watch, it just made me feel sick. I never truly understood Lin Wanyin. Did she really like Fu Yang, or was it just for family interests? Was she being sincere when she sat on his lap, or was it all an act? Now the answer was clear, it was both, and it was neither. She liked the Fu Yang who had a listed company, power, and glory. When those things vanished, she was the first to run. Fu Yang saw the video while he was packing his things at his apartment after his dismissal. The company car and the apartment were being repossessed, according to Xiao Liu. When Fu Yang saw the video, he smashed his phone and sat on the sofa, motionless for 2 hours. Xiao Liu's exact words were, "Sister Shen, Mr. Fu, he seems to have snapped. He hasn't said a word, he just sits there, staring blankly at the wall. I called his name several times, but he didn't react," I replied. "Leave him be," Xiao Liu added. "One more thing, when Miss Lin left, she left behind everything Mr. Fu ever bought her, bags, jewelry, clothes, 3 whole trunks of it. She also left a note that just said, 'Fu Yang, we're finished.'" I didn't reply. That evening I received a call from Fu Yang's lawyer. The lawyer's tone was very polite. "Ms. Shenji, my client Mr. Fu Yang wishes to meet with you for a final negotiation regarding the divorce. When? Tomorrow morning at 10 at his apartment." Fine. At 10:00 a.m. the next morning I arrived at Fu Yang's door. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and saw him sitting on the living room sofa. The apartment was a massive penthouse duplex, luxuriously decorated, but it was now a wreck. Documents, clothes and broken glass were strewn across the floor. 3 untouched takeout containers sat on the coffee table, and the air smelled sour. Fu Yang sat in the middle of the sofa in a grey t-shirt and sweatpants. His hair was a mess, and his eyes were red and swollen. On the table before him sat the divorce agreement and a pen. He looked up as I entered, his gaze hollow. "You're here?" "Yes, sit." I took a chair opposite him. He watched me in silence for a long time before asking, "Shenji, are you really divorcing me?" "I am. There's no room for reconciliation." "None." He was silent again, then he picked up the agreement, flipped to the last page and pointed to the signature line. "If I sign this, will you finally be satisfied? If you sign it, we're even." "Even?" He laughed, a bitter sound. "Shenji, do you really think we can ever be even?" "Why not?" "Because you owe me." I looked at him. "What do I owe you?" "You owe me 3 years. His voice grew agitated. "You were with me for 3 years. You can't just walk away and turn on me like this. Did you ever think about my feelings?" "Your feelings?" I laughed. "Fu Yang, when you called me an obedient dog in your study, did you think about my feelings? When you had every company in the industry blackball me, did you think about my feelings? When you accused me of stealing trade secrets at a press conference, did you think about my feelings?" His mouth opened but no words came. "You didn't," I said. "You never thought about my feelings because in your eyes I wasn't a person, I was a tool to write your proposals, negotiate your projects and make you money." "No." His voice was weak. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" He said nothing. I stood up, walked over to him, took the pen from the table and shoved it into his hand. "Sign it." He looked down at the agreement, his hand shaking. "Shenji, I have one condition." "What is it?" "Give me a chance to prove myself." "Prove what?" "Prove that I'm not the kind of person you say I am." "Fu Yang, you've already proven it," I said. "You used 3 years to prove exactly who you are." Tears fell from his eyes, landing on the agreement and blurring the ink. "Shenji, I'm begging you." He looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "Just give me one more chance. I won't be CEO anymore. I'll give up everything. I just want to be with you." "You don't love me." "I do love you." "You don't love me," I repeated. "You're just afraid of being alone." He froze. "Fu Yang, think about it. Do you really love me? Do you know what my favorite color is? Do you know what I like to eat? Do you even know when my birthday is?" His eyes flickered. "You don't know," I said. "Because you never cared. You only cared about what I could do for you. That isn't love, that's exploitation." He slammed the agreement onto the table, stood up, and walked to the window, turning his back to me. Outside was the city skyline. The sunlight hit his back, casting a long, lonely shadow. "Shenji," he said softly, "if I sign this, what will you do?" "I will build the Fu Group into the best in the industry. And then nothing. It's really over between us. It's over." He turned around to face me, the redness in his eyes deepening. "Fine." He walked back, picked up the pen and signed the document. Once finished, he threw the pen on the table and looked at me. "Are you satisfied now?" I said nothing. I picked up the agreement, checked the signature and once confirmed, tucked it into my bag. "Fu Yang, thank you." "For what?" for teaching me one thing. What? To never hand the handle of the knife to someone else. I turned toward the door. Shinji, he called out behind me. I stopped but didn't look back. Do you still hate me? I was silent for 3 seconds, then I said, I don't hate you anymore. Why? Because hating someone is just too exhausting. I pulled the door open and walked out. Behind me came a dull thud. He had kicked the coffee table over. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the first floor. Before the doors slid shut, I heard his voice echoing down the hallway. It sounded like a roar, yet also like a sob. The elevator descended. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My expression was calm, no rush of pleasure, no lingering sadness, nothing, just one singular sensation: liberation. Stepping out of the apartment building, the sunlight hit my face. Standing on the steps, I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone and sent a message to Ju Minute. Divorce papers are signed, I'm free, Ju Minute replied instantly. Congrats, dinner is on me tonight. Deal, I texted back. I tucked my phone away and walked toward the car parked at the curb. The driver opened the door for me. I sat inside and simply said, to the office. The car merged into the flow of traffic on the main road, leaning back against the seat. I closed my eyes and began mapping out the future of the Fu Group. In 3 months I would bring the Fu Group back from the brink. In 6 months I would have it back in the industry's top 5. In 1 year I would make it number 1. As for Fu Yang, would he be part of my plan? No, he was no longer part of my world. On the 40th day, Fu Yang's company, a private investment firm under his name, had its assets frozen by the court. The cause was his failure to pay 3 suppliers for goods totaling 80 million yuan. The suppliers had filed a joint lawsuit and the court ruled against him, freezing everything: the firm, an apartment, 2 cars, and every cent in his bank accounts. When Fu Yang called me, his voice was eerily calm. Shinji, my assets have been frozen. I know. Was it your doing? It wasn't me, it was the debt you owed. But you gave them a push. I didn't push anything. You should have anticipated the consequences when you withheld payments from your suppliers. Shinji, I have nothing left now. You still have your freedom. There was a long silence on the other end. Then he said something that actually surprised me. Shinji, I want to see you. Why? Because I have some things to return to you. What things? You'll know when you get here. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Fine, tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. in my office. The next day at 3:00 p.m. sharp, Fu Yang appeared in the lobby of the Fu Group headquarters. He was wearing a white button-down and deep blue jeans. His hair was trimmed short and his stubble was gone. He looked more put together than he had a few days ago, but there was an indescribable hollowness in his eyes. The girl at the front desk hesitated when she saw him, unsure whether to call him CEO Fu or Mr. Fu. Eventually she settled on Mr. Fu. Fu Yang nodded and stepped into the elevator. I was waiting for him in the office. This office used to be his, now it was mine. I'd had it renovated, fresh white walls, light wood furniture, and a potted ivy on the windowsill. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the whole room feel bright and airy. Fu Yang pushed the door open and stood at the entrance, taking it all in. You redecorated? Yes, it looks good, he said, walking in and taking the seat across from me. Better than before. Why did you want to see me? He pulled a small box from his pocket, placed it on the desk and pushed it toward me. What's this? Open it and see. I opened the box. Inside was a ring, our wedding ring. It was a platinum band set with a very small diamond. It wasn't a luxury piece, but it was elegant. 3 years ago when he placed this ring on my finger, he told me, Gigi, I bought this with my very first bonus. It's not expensive, but it carries my heart. I had cried back then. Now the ring lay in the box, its luster faded like a forgotten memory. You kept it? I asked. I wore it every day. He held out his left hand. There was a pale mark around his ring finger where the band had sat. I only took it off yesterday. Why give it back to me? Because it belongs to you, he said. This ring was bought with your money. I blinked, momentarily stunned. 3 years ago I bought this ring using the bonus you helped me earn. His lips twitched somewhere between a smile and a grimace. So it's yours. I snapped the box shut and left it on the desk. Fu Yang, you didn't come here just to return a ring, did you? He was silent for a while, then he spoke. Shinji, I want to apologize to you. Apologize? Yes, for everything. His voice was soft and sincere. For the things I said in the study, for stealing your proposals and calling them mine, for blacklisting you in the industry, and for slandering you at the press conference, for all of it. I am sorry." I watched him but said nothing. "I know an apology doesn't fix anything," he continued. "The pain I caused can't be made right with a sorry, but I had to say it because I don't want to live the rest of my life carrying this guilt. Fu Yang, are you truly guilty?" "I am. Or is it just because you have nothing left that you've suddenly found your conscience?" His eyes flickered. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if you were still the CEO of Fu Group right now with Lin Wanyin by your side and billions in the bank, would you be sitting here apologizing to me?" His lips moved, but no words came out. "You wouldn't," I said, "because if you still had those things you wouldn't think you'd done anything wrong, you'd think everything was only natural, that my hard work was owed to you. My sacrifices were expected and my pain was just part of the deal. No, it's only when you lost everything that you started to reflect. But this reflection isn't because you realized you were wrong, it's because you can't stomach the cost of your loss." His eyes grew red. "Shinji, you're right." His voice trembled. "I feel guilty because I lost everything, but I truly do know I was wrong now. I shouldn't have treated you like that." I remained silent for a long time. Finally I spoke. "Fu Yang, I accept your apology." He looked up, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "But I will not forgive you." That glimmer died instantly. "Accepting an apology and forgiving someone are two different things," I said. "I accept your apology because I don't want hatred to keep consuming me, but I won't forgive you because what you did is unforgivable." He lowered his head and stayed silent for a long time. Eventually he stood up and walked to the door. He paused and turned back to look at me. "Shinji, do you remember the first time we met?" "I remember. In that cafe you were writing a proposal and I sat nearby watching you for 2 hours. Yes, back then I thought you were the most incredible person I'd ever met. But you forgot that later on." "I didn't forget." His voice was barely a whisper. "I just got used to it." He opened the door and walked out. The door clicked shut. I sat in my chair, staring at the ring box on my desk for a long time. Then I swept the box into a drawer, picked up the documents on my desk, and went back to work. The sun outside was warm and the ivy leaves swayed gently in the breeze. I flipped to the last page of the contract and signed my name, Shinji, not Mrs. Fu, not consultant Shin, not anyone's accessory, just Shinji. On the 4th to 5th day, Fu Yang moved out of his apartment. The court had seized it. He moved into a friend's basement, paying 1,500 a month in rent. When Xiao Liu told me the news, his tone was laced with pity. "Sister Ji, Mr. Fu is living in an old urban village now. The room is less than 10 square meters and there isn't even air conditioning." I said nothing. Xiao Liu continued. "He's looking for work, but no company dares to hire him. The Fu Group scandal was too big. Everyone's afraid of the trouble he might bring." "Has he reached out to you?" "He has. He wanted me to put in a word for him. He was wondering if you could give him a chance to come back to Fu Group as an entry-level employee." "No, I figured. I'm just passing the message along." "Xiao Liu," I said, "tell him that if he really wants a fresh start, he should stop thinking about Fu Group. Tell him to go somewhere where nobody knows him and start from zero." Xiao Liu paused. "I'll let him know." On the 50th day, I received a text from Fu Yang from a new number. "Shinji, I'm leaving the city, heading south for a fresh start. Thank you for not driving me into a total dead end. I'm sorry, take care." I looked at the message for a long time before replying with a single word. "You too." Then, I deleted his number. I didn't block it, I deleted it because from this moment on, he no longer needed to exist in my contacts. By the 60th day, Fu Group's stock price had climbed back to the level it was at before I took over. I had spent 2 months doing one thing, stopping the bleeding. Zhao Wenxing returned to the South City Complex project on the condition that I manage it directly. Donghai Finance agreed to an extension on the loans, provided Fu Group put up more assets as collateral. I paid off half the debt to the 3 suppliers and arranged a payment plan for the rest, ensuring they continued to supply us. Every single deal was negotiated by me alone. No Fu Yang, no team, just me and my strategies. During an internal meeting, Ju Minute said, "Shinji did in 2 months what Fu Yang couldn't do in 2 years." I replied, "It's not because I'm better than him, it's because I'm more honest. I tell our partners the truth. If there's a problem with a project, I say so. If I can solve something, I promise it." Fu Yang's problem was that he was always selling a dream, but the dream never became a reality. Juminit laughed. You're a bit too direct. You don't need euphemisms to run a business. On the 70th day I got an unexpected call. It was Lin Wanin. Her voice was as sweet as it had been that night in the study. Sister Ji, long time no see. Miss Lin, what do you want? I'd like to meet you. I have some things I need to say. Whatever it is, you can say it over the phone. I'd prefer to do it in person. It's about Fu Yang. I hesitated. Fine, tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. my office. The next day Lin Wanin showed up exactly on time. She was wearing a pale pink dress, her hair down, her makeup flawless. She looked exactly as she had 3 months ago. But her eyes were different. 3 months ago she looked at me with provocation. Now that was replaced by something harder to define. Sit, I said, gesturing to the chair. She sat and glanced around. You've redecorated nicely. Thanks. Now what's this about? She took a deep breath. Sister Ji, I want to apologize to you. I just looked at her. I'm sorry for that night in the study, she said softly. I shouldn't have said those things, and I shouldn't have been sitting on Fu Yang's lap. I know I was in the wrong. Did you come here just to apologize? Not entirely. She pulled a USB drive from her bag and set it on the desk. There are things in here I think you should know. What kind of things? Recordings and chat logs from Fu Yang. Her expression grew complicated. I recorded some things while I was with him. I didn't do it maliciously. It was to protect myself. To protect yourself. Yes. Her voice dropped an octave. Fu Yang is a controlling person. When he needs you, he'll say anything. When he doesn't, he turns on you faster than you can blink. Being with him made me feel constantly afraid that one day he'd treat me exactly the way he treated you. So you recorded him? Yes, I know it's wrong, but I was scared. I picked up the USB drive, looked at it and set it back down. Why give this to me now? Because I think you deserve the truth. She looked up at me. The things Fu Yang said about you publicly weren't true. He made up the stories about you stealing trade secrets and taking side jobs. It's all in the recordings. You knew he was lying, yet you didn't say anything then. Tears began to fall. I didn't dare. My family still had business dealings with the Fu Group. My father would never have let me cross Fu Yang, but things are different now. The Fu Group is yours. I'm not afraid anymore. I stared at her for a long time. Lin Wanin, do you know what your biggest problem is? She shook her head. You're not evil, you're a coward. I said, you know what's right, but you're too afraid to do it. You know what's wrong, but you're too afraid to say no. When you were on his lap, you knew it was wrong, but you didn't push him away. Now you're here to apologize because you know it's the right thing to do, but you only dared to come because Fu Yang has fallen. She began to sob harder. You're right, she choked out. I am a coward. My whole life has been arranged by my family. Being with Fu Yang was my father's idea. I've never lived for myself. Then do you want to? She looked up and for the first time I saw a spark in her eyes. I do. Then go do it. I told her. Don't lean on anyone. Don't be an accessory to anyone. Your family has money. You have an education. You are perfectly capable of standing on your own. Why sit on a man's lap and wait for him to toss you scraps of attention? She was silent for a long time, then nodded slowly. Thank you, Sister Ji. Don't thank me. Leave the drive and you can go. She stood up, walked to the door, paused and turned back. One last time, Sister Ji, one more thing. What? That night in the study, those things Fu Yang said, it wasn't the first time. He talked about you like that all the time behind your back. He said you were just his tool, his dog. I'm sorry, I can't even say the words. It's fine. I said, I already know. She bit her lip and left. The door shut. I picked up the USB drive, plugged it into my computer and opened the files. There were 3 recordings and over a dozen screenshots of chat logs. I put on my headphones and clicked the first audio file. Fu Yang's voice was crystal clear. He was on the phone with Lin Wanin. Wanin, stop making a scene. Shinji is just a tool. I don't have any feelings for her. As soon as the proposal for the West Side project is finished, I'm kicking her to the curb. I turned the recording off. There was no need to hear the rest. I unplugged the USB drive and locked it in the safe. Just another piece of evidence for the pile. On the 80th day, I made a final decision. I had the Public Relations Department arrange a press conference titled Fu Group Strategic Restructuring Conference. The venue was the ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel, the very same place where Fu Yang had slandered me. I stood on the stage facing 100 journalists and several live broadcast cameras. I got straight to the point. Members of the media, I've called this conference today to clarify certain matters and to announce the future strategic roadmap for the Fu Group. I paused, then continued. First, I wish to clarify the ownership of the core projects managed by the Fu Group over the last 3 years. Below the stage, the journalists raised their cameras. Those projects, the South City Complex, the East District Industrial Park, the West City Urban Renewal, every proposal was written by me. Every data point was calculated by me, every contract was negotiated by me. The room fell into a dead silence. During Mr. Fu Yang's tenure, he appropriated these proposals as his own and claimed credit for them in public. This is an indisputable fact, and I have sufficient evidence to prove it. I pulled a USB drive from my pocket, the one containing all the original files, and held it up toward the cameras. Contained here are all the original project files, revision logs, email exchanges, and chat logs. Every file has a timestamp clearly identifying the author. I placed the drive on the table. However, I am not here today to press charges against Mr. Fu Yang. I simply want the truth to be known. Whispers began to ripple through the audience. Secondly, I will announce the future strategic planning for the Fu Group. I switched the slide on the projector, displaying a 3-year roadmap. Over the next 3 years, the group will focus on 3 core businesses: commercial real estate, urban renewal, and industrial parks. We will use our professional expertise to deliver the most reliable projects. I spoke for 20 minutes, detailing every strategic point. The reporters shifted from gossip-hungry vultures into serious financial analysts taking diligent notes. As the conference ended, reporters swarmed me with questions. Ms. Shenji, will you be pursuing legal action against Mr. Fu Yang? Someone asked. No, I replied. Why not? Because he has already received the punishment he deserved. Another asked. Do you hate Fu Yang? I smiled. I don't. Hating someone is too exhausting. I prefer to spend my energy on building things up rather than tearing them down. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to him? I went quiet for a moment before saying, if there is a next life, I hope we never meet. That sentence was widely reported and became the top trending topic of the day. In the comments sections, people wrote, Shinji is class personified. This is what real strength looks like. And letting go of hate requires more courage than holding on to it. Some argued, she's too kind, she should have sent him to prison. I saw those comments, but I didn't respond, only I knew that it wasn't kindness. I simply wanted no further entanglement with him. To hate someone means you still care. Indifference is the only true way to move on. On the 90th day, Zhao Shuyi was hospitalized. It was late-stage liver cancer. The hospital called me because I was listed as her emergency contact, not Fu Yang. When I arrived, Zhao Shuyi was lying in the hospital bed, her face sallow and her body wasted away to skin and bone. Her eyes were closed and her breathing was shallow, like a fallen leaf ready to be swept away by the wind. The nurse informed me, Ms. Zhao's condition was discovered too late. The cancer has metastasized. At this stage, she likely has only 1 or 2 months left. I sat by the bed and held her hand in silence. Her hand was cold, her knuckles prominent, and her skin covered in age spots. 3 months ago, when she handed me that adoption agreement in the car, she had been so full of life. Now she was a flickering candle about to go out. Zhao Shuyi woke up when she saw me. Her lips twitched into a weak smile. Shinji, you're here. Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner? Tell you what, that I have cancer, that I'm dying. Her voice was thin like wind through dry leaves. I didn't want you to worry. You are my family. Of course I would worry. Family. Zhao Shuyi repeated the word, her eyes welling up. Shinji, did you know I've always thought of you as my daughter? I know. No, you don't. Her fingers tightened around mine. What I mean is, you really are my daughter. I froze. Shinji, do you remember that adoption agreement I gave you? Yes, that agreement was real, but I didn't tell you the whole truth. She took a deep breath, gathering her strength. 30 years ago, I gave birth to a daughter in a private hospital, but a fire broke out that day, and in the chaos, the nurses told me my daughter had perished in the fire. Her tears began to fall. I was devastated. My husband was too. We searched for a long time but found nothing. Later, the hospital director introduced me to a child, Fu Yang. He said the boy had been abandoned at the hospital with no one to claim him. I took him home and raised him as my own son. But a month ago, I received a call from that same hospital. They were organizing old archives and found records from that fire. A nurse had written a report stating that a baby girl had been switched in the confusion, mistakenly taken home by another family. They investigated for a long time and finally traced that baby girl. Zhao Shui turned her head to look at me, her eyes streaming. That baby girl was you. My mind went completely blank. You are my biological daughter. She trembled. 30 years ago you were switched at birth. You aren't the biological child of the parents who raised you. You are mine. That's impossible. My voice shook. I have my parents. Your parents, the ones you thought were yours, they adopted you from that hospital. They might not even have known you weren't biologically theirs, but a DNA test doesn't lie. She pulled a document from beneath her pillow and handed it to me. This is the DNA report. I had it done 3 times. Each result was the same. Your DNA matches mine. You are my daughter. I took the file, my hands trembling. I flipped to the first page and saw the conclusion. Identification result. The DNA similarity between Zhao Shui and Shunji is 99%, confirming a biological parent-child relationship. I sank into the chair, feeling the world spin. Shunji, Zhao Shui said softly, I'm sorry, I failed to protect you 30 years ago and let you grow up in another home. I missed everything, your first steps, your first words, your first day of school, your graduation. I gave you nothing. But you gave me the Fu Group, I said. You gave me all your shares. That was always yours to begin with. She smiled through her tears. The Fu Group belongs to the Fu family. You are the daughter of the Fu family, so of course it belongs to you. And what about Fu Yang? Zhao Shui was silent for a moment. Fu Yang, he isn't my biological son, but I raised him for 30 years. I failed him. You didn't fail him, you gave him everything. But I didn't raise him well, she whispered. I didn't teach him how to be a good man. I was too busy with business and making money to spend time with him. I take responsibility for the person he's become. Mom, my tears finally broke. Shunji, I'm dying. She gripped my hand tightly. Before I go, I want to ask one thing of you. What is it? Don't hate Fu Yang, he's done many terrible things, but he's a pitiful man too. He never had his real parents, and after I adopted him he never received enough love. It's not entirely his fault he turned out this way. I remained silent for a long time, then I said, I don't hate him. Really, I've already let it go. Zhao Shui smiled, looking peaceful. Good, that's good, then I can rest easy. She closed her eyes and her breathing steadied. I sat by her side all night, holding her hand and looking at her pale face, feeling a wave of complex emotions. This woman was my biological mother. The woman I had called Mom for 3 years actually was my mother, and the man I thought was my husband for 3 years was neither my husband nor my brother. He was just a child caught in the whims of fate. I stayed in that hospital room all night. At dawn, she woke up and saw me still sitting there. Shunji, go get some rest. I'm fine, I'm not tired. Liar, your eyes are bloodshot. I smiled. You're a liar too. You're in this state and you still say you're fine. She laughed, but the laughter turned to tears. Shunji, my biggest regret in life is not watching you grow up. But you see me as I am now. Yes, a light shone in her eyes. I see how incredible you are. You are 100 times stronger than Fu Yang, 10 times stronger than me. You are the finest child of the Fu family. Mom, don't cry, she said. You're a daughter of the Fu family. The Fu family doesn't cry. I wiped my eyes and forced a smile. All right, no more crying. The 100th day, the Fu Group annual shareholders meeting. This was my 100th day in charge and the 10th day of Zhao Shui's hospitalization. The meeting was held in the grand auditorium at headquarters. Over 30 shareholders, board members, management, industry observers, and journalists were in attendance. I stood on the stage in a white suit. Ju Minute had picked it out, saying white represents a fresh start. The first item on the agenda was the election of the new chairperson. The result was a foregone conclusion. I was elected with 89% of the vote. As the host announced the result, the room erupted in applause. It wasn't polite, perfunctory clapping, it was heartfelt, filled with respect and expectation. I stood there, looking at the faces in the crowd, shareholders who had partnered with me, directors who supported me, employees who trusted me, and those who had once doubted me but now believed. I took a deep breath and began to speak. Shareholders, colleagues, thank you for your trust. The room went quiet. 100 days ago when I took over this company, its market value had vanished by 4 billion. Core projects were stalled, partners were withdrawing, suppliers were demanding payment, and banks were calling in loans. Everyone said the Fu Group was finished. I paused. But today, 100 days later, our market value has rebounded by 6 billion. The South City complex has restarted. The East District Industrial Park is ahead of schedule, and the West City Urban Renewal Plan has been approved. Our partners are back, our suppliers trust us, and the banks are lending to us again. Applause broke out. In these 100 days, I haven't used any magic, nor have I relied on anyone else. I did only one thing: I was honest. I was honest with our partners about the reality of the projects. I was honest with our employees about the company's situation. I was honest with the market about our true value. Honesty is the best business strategy. Many in the audience nodded. Today, I wish to announce 3 things. The silence returned as everyone watched me. First, the Fu Group will officially be renamed Jishin Group. Murmurs filled the room. She comes from my name. Shin stands for integrity. Together, they represent the core values of this company: professionalism and honesty. Second, I will donate 20% of my personal shares in Jishin Group to establish a career protection fund for women. The silence grew deeper. The purpose of this fund is to help women who are exploited, oppressed, or ignored in the workplace, women who, like me, may have given their all but received no respect or recognition. In return, they may need a lawyer, a therapist, or simply someone willing to listen. This fund is for them. The applause this time was thunderous. Thirdly, I paused. I want to thank someone. The room stilled. I want to thank Mr. Fu Yang. An uproar of confusion broke out. Yes, you heard me correctly. I want to thank Fu Yang. My voice remained steady, because in 3 years he taught me one vital lesson: never hand the hilt of the knife to someone else. He taught me that in this world no one is worth completely abandoning yourself for. You can love someone, but you cannot lose yourself for the sake of that love. He taught me that all effort should be respected, all labor acknowledged, and all contributions seen. So, I thank him. Some clapped, some stayed silent, and some had tears in their eyes. I finished my speech and walked off the stage to a standing ovation that lasted a long time. After the meeting, I ran into Fu Yang in the parking lot. He had been at the hospital to see Zhao Shuyi. Even though she wasn't his biological mother, he had still come. He stayed for an hour and was just leaving as I arrived. We met at the entrance of the building. He was at the bottom of the steps. I was at the top. He was wearing an ordinary jacket and jeans. His hair was long and he was unshaven, looking like any regular working-class man, but his eyes had changed. The insufferable arrogance was gone, replaced by something else, perhaps peace, perhaps exhaustion, perhaps a sense of release. He saw me and froze for a second, then smiled. It was a faint smile, but a real one. Shinji, congratulations. I watched the live stream. You spoke very well. Thank you. Especially that line about never handing the hilt of the knife to someone else. A corner of his mouth twitched. You're right. Did you go see Mom? Yeah. She wasn't in the best spirits, but she seemed happy to see me. He paused. She told me everything, that you're her biological daughter. I see. So you're the true master of the Fu family. His voice was flat. And I am nothing. You're not nothing, I said. You're her son regardless of blood ties. She raised you for 30 years. To her, you are her son. His eyes reddened. Shinji, let me ask you one thing. Go ahead. Do you hate me? I looked at him and remained silent for 3 seconds. Then I said, no, truly, truly. Like I said, hating someone is just too exhausting. He smiled, and tears began to stream down his cheeks. Shinji, do you know the greatest luck of my life was meeting you, but my greatest misfortune was not cherishing you. There's no need to bring up the past anymore, right? He wiped his tears. Well, I'm leaving. Where are you going? South. I'll find a job and start over. I wish you the best. Thank you. He turned and walked a few paces before stopping to look back at me. Shinji, there's one more thing. What is it? The ginseng tea, the tea you brought that night. I drank it. I was momentarily stunned. It was cold, but I drank every drop, he said softly. It was good. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I stood on the steps watching his silhouette for a long time. Then I turned, walked into the building, and headed for Zhao Shuyi's room. Zhao Shuyi was lying in bed. Her complexion was worse than a few days ago, but her eyes were bright. She smiled when she saw me come in. Shinji, how was the shareholders' meeting? It went well. What did you speak about? I spoke about the importance of honesty. Zhao Shui laughed. You were always honest, even as a baby. The nurse said that when you were being carried away, you didn't cry once, you just kept your eyes open and stared at her as if to say, I know you'll come looking for me. My eyes grew hot. Mom, don't talk about that now, just rest. No, I have to say it. She gripped my hand. I'm afraid I won't get another chance. You're going to get better. Don't lie to me. She smiled. I know my own body, but I'm not afraid because I found you. I have no more regrets. Mom. Shinji, promise me one thing. Anything. Take Fu Group, no Jishin Group, and make it #1 in the industry. Let the whole world know that the daughter of the Fu family is the best there is. I promise you. Good. Zhao Shui closed her eyes, a smile lingering on her lips. Then my heart is at peace. Her hand loosened, and her breathing became steady. I sat by the bed, holding her hand and looking out the window. The sun was setting, painting the horizon in layers of gold. The flowers on the windowsill had bloomed white roses, her favorite. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Ju Minute. Postpone tomorrow morning's meeting to 10. I want to stay with my mom. Ju Minute replied instantly. Understood, tell her we're all waiting for her to come back. I put the phone down and held Zhao Shui's hand tighter. Mom, did you hear that? Everyone is waiting for you. She didn't answer, but the corner of her mouth twitched slightly as if she were smiling. 3 days later, Zhao Shui passed away peacefully in her sleep. When she left, I was holding her hand, and she had a smile on her face. The nurse said she went peacefully without any pain. I stood in the room, looking at her face as tears fell silently, but I didn't make a sound, because she had told me the Fu family doesn't cry. 3 months later, the Fu Group was officially rebranded as Jishin Group. It went public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, with the share price surging 25% on the first day, pushing the market value past 30 billion. I stood in the hall of the stock exchange and struck the ceremonial gong. The sound echoed through the hall as camera flashes went off in a frenzy. Ju Minute stood beside me, beaming. Shinji, you did it. It's not over yet, I said. This is only the beginning. What's the next step? The next step, becoming #1 in the industry. Ji Yushin stood below the stage. Giving me a thumbs up, I nodded back at him, then looked into the camera and said one thing. Ms. Zhao Shui, your daughter did not let you down. That quote was widely reported and became the headline of the day. In the comments section, people said things like, Shinji is a total boss. This is the best kind of revenge, and the ultimate example of female empowerment. But the one I cared about most was an anonymous comment. It had only 3 words. I'm sorry, take care. I knew exactly who sent it. I didn't reply because some stories don't need an ending, some people don't need to be seen again, some pasts don't need to be forgotten, and they don't even need to be forgiven, they just need to be let go. I turned off my phone and walked out of the stock exchange. The sunlight hit my face. The driver opened the door for me. I sat inside and said, to the office. The car merged into the main flow of traffic. I leaned back and closed my eyes, a faint smile playing on my lips. 100 days ago, I stood outside a study door holding a cup of ginseng tea, overhearing my husband say, she's nothing more than a loyal dog I keep around. 100 days later, I sat in a car wearing a white suit, the chairperson of a publicly traded company. In these 100 days I lost a marriage, but I found myself. I lost a husband, but I found my mother. I lost 3 years of my life, but I found an entire future. Outside the window, the city lights began to flicker on, and skyscraper after skyscraper flashed past. Within those buildings were Fu Group projects, my proposals, my sweat, and my name. Not Mrs. Fu, not consultant Shen, not anyone's accessory. I am Shinji, a woman of persistence, a woman of integrity, a woman in control of her own destiny. The car stopped in front of the Jishin Group building. I pushed the door open and walked in. The girl at the front desk saw me and smiled. Good morning, President Shen. I nodded, stepped into the elevator, and pressed the button for the top floor. As the doors closed, I saw my reflection in the mirror. I was smiling. The end.